Morskaya dusha means sea soul in English, telnik, telnyashka. All these are the Russian names of a striped sailor's vest. And the colors of this shirt these days are no less than the names, from the classic blue and white stripes to orange. Today we remember how it appeared and why it became a symbol of Russian sailors and paratroopers. Hello, Newsoldier in touch, let's begin! The famous Russian vest telnyashka has European roots. Striped undershirts appeared in the days of the sailing fleet. Alternating white and blue stripes helped to see the sailor against the background of sails of any color, and in the event of a sailor falling into the water, the colors of the vest helped to quickly find and save him. Why is it striped? Until recently, every cabin boy knew that the sea is inhabited not only by fish and water reptiles, but also by spirits, lots of spirits. Establishing normal contact with them, finding mutual understanding is the key not only to a successful voyage, but also a guarantor of a sailor's life expectancy. Mother Fate rules the sea directly, without intermediary in the form of common sense. In this regard, the main task of any person on the high seas is not to provoke fate too famously. Over many millennia, this goal has formed around itself a whole system of knowledge, a real science, which people dependent on the Earth's firmament carelessly call marine superstitions. Sailors don't like to test axioms with personal experience. The experiments of physicists and the careless curiosity of lyricists are alien to them. All they have to do is strictly follow tradition, because it is difficult for drowned men to learn from their own mistakes. Do not take a woman on a ship, do not whistle, do not kill seagulls, bathe after crossing the equator, an earring in the ear so as not to drown, a tattoo so as not to become a ghost after death. Everything has its own specific meaning, where functionality is adjacent to mysticism, protective magic. From time immemorial, Breton fishermen going to sea put on striped black and white robes. It was believed that the robe protects them from aggression of undines, mermaids and other evil spirits. Perhaps the Breton vest played the role of underwater camouflage, protecting from the gaze of sea demons. And perhaps another function was attributed to the alternating horizontal stripes by the Breton fishermen. One thing is for sure, the striped shirt played the role of a talisman. During the period of the great geographical discoveries, when there was an acute shortage of personnel in the world, many Breton fishermen joined the European fleets. But most of the Bretons, oddly enough, ended up on Dutch, not French ships. Maybe because they paid well there, maybe because the Bretons were not very fond of the French usurpers. Or maybe the Dutch, liberal by nature, didn't forbid the Bretons from wearing their defined striped outfits. This was the beginning of the 17th century. By the end of the century, the vest will become a global element of clothing for all European sailors. How do you feel about all these superstitions? Do they have hidden common sense? Leave your comments below the video. How many stripes are on the vest? Of course, you can rightly count the stripes on the same paratroopers vest, but here we will be disappointed. In Russia, since the Soviet period, the number of stripes on vest depends on the dimensions of a particular sailor, marine or border guard. Relatively speaking, on the 46 size, there will be 33 of them, and on the 56, 52. The numerological problems of the vest could be insignificant if it were not known for sure that the numerical symbolism in the Breton shirt still exists. For example, in the standard adopted by the French Navy in 1852, the vest had to be 21 stripes, according to the number of Napoleon's great victories. However, this is the version for Landrats. 21 is the number of success, good luck in the cult card game of sailors, blackjack, aka 21. The numerological component in the number of stripes was among the Dutch and the British, so in the middle of 17th century, ship crews engaged by the Dutch East India Company preferred Breton sweaters with 12 horizontal stripes, the number of ribs in a person. Thus, as some connoisseurs of the maritime tradition explain, the sailors received a dashing fate, showing that they had already died and become ghost skeletons. Russia. Telnyashka in Russia is more than just an item of uniform for military personnel. It is a legend, tradition, history. After all, it is not in vain that the telnyashka made of typical marine uniforms has expanded to all types of troops of modern Russia, while acquiring a variety of colors. The telnyashka appeared in Russia in 1874. On August 19th, a decree was signed that the telnyashka is part of the mandatory uniform of the Russian sailor. The initiative to dress up the Russian fleet belonged to Grand Duke Konstantin Romanov. Initially, Russian vests were knitted from wool in half-piece paper and weighed about 340 grams. The ancestors of the modern Russian telnik looked like this. The color of the shirt is white with blue transverse stripes, spaced from one another by 1 vershok, 44.45 mm. The width of the blue stripes is a quarter of an vershok, and only in 1912 the width of the stripes on the telnyashka became the same, 11.11 mm each. By the way, the stripes of the Russian shirt were not only blue. Colors could vary depending on belonging to a particular naval formation. For the sailors of the Baltic Flotilla of the 1st St. Petersburg Brigade of the Separate Corps of the Border Guard, the stripes on the telnyashka were initially green. And for the sailors of Amu Darya Flotilla, which was also part of the Separate Corps of the Border Guard, they were red. But the classic color was still considered white and blue. After all, exactly these stripes of telnyashka that corresponded to the colors of the St. Andrew's flag, the official Russian Navy. At first, Russian telnyashka was sewn abroad. Own production was established only over time in St. Petersburg at the Kersten knitting factory. After the revolution, it was renamed the Red Banner. Today, Russian law enforcement agencies use different colors of vests. Depending on the type of troops, the stripes on the telnyashka are dark blue Navy, blue Airborne, cornflower blue FSB Special Forces Presidential Regiment, light green Border Troops, maroon internal troops of the Ministry for Internal Affairs, orange units of the Ministry of Emergency Situations. Also, a marine telnyashka with stripes of dark blue color is included in the uniform of cadets of military and civilian maritime and river educational institutions. As for the black and white telnik, this coloring is often attributed to the units of the submarine fleet and marines, although in accordance with decree number 532, they are entitled to the same telnyashka as all servicemen of the Russian Navy. The criteria for choosing a particular color by a particular branch of service is probably a military secret, although it would be very interesting to know why, say, the FSB Special Forces flaunt in vests with cornflower blue stripes. But time will pass and the secret will become clear. What telnyashka did you have to wear? Tell us in the comments below the video. Why is a paratrooper wearing a telnyashka? An interesting story is the appearance of a telnyashka among the soldiers of the airborne forces. The telnyashka has always been associated with the water element, but not with the air. How and why did a skydiver in a blue beret get a telnyashka? Unofficially, Breton shirts appeared in the wardrobe of paratroopers in 1959. Then they began to be awarded for a parachute jump into the water. However, it is unlikely that this minor tradition could grow into a striped cult, which eventually arose in the airborne forces. The main cultivator of the telnyashka in the airborne forces was the legendary commander of the airborne forces Vasily Margelov. It was thanks to his frantic enthusiasm that the striped sweatshirt officially entered the paratroopers' wardrobe. The abduction of the sea soul by paratroopers was resisted in every possible way by the commander-in-chief of the USSR Navy, Sergei Gorshkov. Once, according to legend, at one meeting he entered into an open skirmish with Vasily Margelov, calling the appearance of a paratrooper in a telnyashka with the unpleasant word anachronism. Vasily Filipovich then severely put the old sea wolf in his place. I fought in the Marines and I know what paratroopers deserve and what they don't. The official premiere of the blue striped vest took place in the Prague events of August 1968. It was the Soviet paratroopers in the striped sweatshirts that played a decisive role in ending the Prague Spring. At the same time, the debut of the famous blue beret took place. Few people know that the new appearance of the paratroopers was not registered in any official document. They received their baptismal fire by the free will of the Patriarch of the Airborne Forces, without any unnecessary bureaucratic red tape. Knowledgeable people who can read between the lines saw in the Prague show Soviet paratroopers a hidden challenge from the commander of the airborne forces to the commander-in-chief of the Navy. The fact is that Margelov stole from the sailors not only a telnyashka but also a beret. The official premiere of berets was scheduled on November 7, 1968, a parade on Red Square. But most importantly, the berets were supposed to be black and crown the heads of the Marines under the jurisdiction of the Navy. The Navy received the right of the first night by a special order of the Ministry of Defense of the USSR, number 248, dated November 5, 1963. But 5 years of careful preparation went down to the drain because of the pirate raid of the paratroopers, who at that time had no formal normal right either to wear a beret or telnyashka. The legitimacy of the new outfit of paratroopers received almost a year after the Prague events, thanks to the order of the USSR Ministry of Defense number 191 of July 26, 1969, which introduced the next rules of wearing military uniforms. Who would have dared to ban the fighters of the airborne forces from wearing a telnyashka and beret after they actually single-handedly extended the life of developed socialism in Eastern Europe? Spiteful critics saw the roots of Vasily Filipovich's passion for the attributes of the Navy in desire to annoy the opponent from the Navy and jealously for the Marines, in which Margelov served during the war. We would like to believe that the commander of the airborne forces had more serious reasons. For example, belief in the superpower of a telnyashka and understanding of the striped soul, which he learned about when he fought side by side with the flared sailors during the war. There is a very funny hypothesis that the chief paratrooper's passion for horizontal stripes was born on the wave of popularity among the Soviet military elite of the British film This Sporting Life. This depressing drama tells the story of the harsh world of English rugby players. The picture, released in 1963, for some mysterious reason became a cult among military leaders. Many military commanders lobbied for the creation of subordinate rugby teams, and Vasily Filipovich generally ordered to introduce rugby into the training program for paratroopers. The film can hardly be called spectacular. There are not very many episodes where rugby is played, so it's very difficult to form an opinion about the intricacies of the game. It seems that the main impression on Margelov was made by one of the most brutal moments of the picture, when the main character is intentionally injured by a player of the opposite team. The player of this team is dressed in a striped uniform that resembles a telnyashka. We are few, but we are in telnyashkas. This is not empty bravado. The horizontal stripes create an optical effect that is larger than it really is. Interestingly, the Germans called the Soviet sailors and marines who participated in battles on land during the Second World War striped devils. This epithet is associated not only with the shocking fighting qualities of Soviet warriors, but also with the Western European archetypal consciousness. In Europe, striped clothing for many centuries was the lot of the damned. Professional executioners, heretics, lepers and other outcasts of society who did not have the rights of a city dweller were required to wear it. Of course, the appearance of Soviet sailors in West in a land situation caused primitive fear among unprepared German infantrymen. Today in Russia you will not surprise anyone with a telnyashka. It would seem, well, what is there to talk about, because it's just statutory underwear. However, this underwear in a very special way unites real men into a military brotherhood, makes them brothers. Stripped undershirts of various types are worn by military and civilian sailors from different countries, but only in Russia the telnyashka has become a symbol of a valiant fighter who wins in any conditions. Afghanistan, the hot spots of the last 20 years, bros and telnyashkas of the most different colors everywhere proved to be warriors. Low of the Marine Corps, we are few but we are in telnyashkas, continues to operate. Behind Afghan, behind Chechnya, instead of an armor, stripped vest on strong shoulders. Komsomolets and Kursk went to the bottom, but they go on a campaign and lie down on a course, guys in telnyashkas. That's all. If you liked this video, then don't skimp on the likes and comments. There are more and more of us, and we strive to be even more interesting for you. That's why your comments are so important to us. Let's make this channel together. Until we meet again and interesting stories. Narrated by Maxim Nikulin for Newsoldier channel.